The WNBA faced a massive shock after Caitlin Clark's elimination from the college basketball tournament, and it's not an exaggeration to say the ratings took a nosedive soon after. For a league that has been steadily growing in both viewership and fan engagement over the years, the abrupt drop following Clark's exit has left many scratching their heads. Clark, a young and electric presence on the court, had become a beacon of excitement, not only for Iowa fans but for sports lovers across the board. Her elimination didn't just end Iowa's run, it seemed to pull the rug out from under the WNBA's momentum as well. But before we proceed further, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. It's not that the WNBA has ever struggled with talent. There's no shortage of impressive players with mind-boggling skill sets, but Caitlin Clark brought something fresh to the table. She wasn't just good, she was a show. The kind of player who could make you sit up in your seat, spill your popcorn, and suddenly care way more than you expected about the outcome of a game. She carried an energy that transcended typical fandom. People who didn't usually tune into women's sports were making time in their schedules just to see what Caitlin Clark would do next. That kind of magnetic pull isn't easy to come by, and when it disappears, so do a lot of eyeballs. The thing about sports is that narratives matter just as much as stats, sometimes even more. Sure, you can throw around numbers all day long about three-point percentages and assist-to-turnover ratios, but what fans really want is a story. Caitlin Clark delivered that in spades. She wasn't just a scorer. She was the underdog turned superstar, the one who could pull off circus shots from distances that seemed laughable. She had that scrappy, fearless attitude that made every possession feel like a wild ride. Every game felt like it had stakes because of her, like you might witness history with just one flick of her wrist. So when she was knocked out of the tournament, it felt like someone yanked the plug on the excitement machine. Viewership for the WNBA wasn't just down. It practically crashed through the floor. It's easy to say that one player shouldn't hold that much weight, but in this case, it's hard to deny. Caitlin Clark had become synonymous with a certain kind of energy that had kept the league in the spotlight, even during moments where attention might have wavered. Without her, it felt like the air went out of the room. The WNBA has been here before, though, and that's what makes this so puzzling. It's not like they'd never had stars. Players like Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, and Candace Parker have carried the torch for women's basketball for years. But Clark was different in how quickly she captured a national audience. It wasn't gradual, it was meteoric. And that's where the problem comes in. It's one thing to have a player like Clark become the face of women's basketball. It's another thing to rely on that presence so heavily that, when it's gone, everything starts to crumble. Fans were ready to invest in Clark's journey, and it felt like the WNBA had hitched its wagon to her, perhaps a bit too tightly. The problem isn't that the league lacks talent. There are incredible athletes still playing, capable of putting on a great show every night. But Caitlin Clark had become a focal point. When the storyline evaporated, so did the casual viewers who had tuned in for her. What does that say about the WNBA's strategy moving forward? It's clear that the league needs more than just a single star to hold the weight of its viewership. There's also something to be said about timing. Clark's elimination from the tournament came at a moment when the WNBA was looking to capitalize on the buzz. The league had been riding high on increased media attention, more sponsorships, and a growing fan base. Clark's performances in college had only added fuel to that fire, pushing women's basketball into the mainstream in a way that felt fresh and dynamic. The WNBA was poised to be the natural beneficiary of that rising tide. Then, like a bad punchline in a joke, Clark was out, and all that momentum stalled. It's not all doom and gloom, of course. The WNBA still has a lot going for it. The level of play remains high, and there are other stars, like Breanna Stewart and Audra Wilson, who are more than capable of drawing crowds. But it's hard to ignore the fact that Caitlin Clark's absence left a hole that the league struggled to fill. Some of that is just the reality of modern sports fandom. Today's viewers want instant gratification, and when that's tied to one person, the risk of losing them when things don't go perfectly is high. Clark was, in many ways, the face of the viral moment for women's basketball. Without her, there's less of that draw, that immediate buzz that gets people talking and sharing clips on social media. The WNBA's challenge now is to avoid being so reliant on any single player for its success. That's easier said than done, especially when someone as electrifying as Caitlin Clark comes along. But to build a sustainable fan base, the league needs to cultivate stories across all its teams and stars. There's no shortage of talent, and it's on the WNBA to keep that talent front and center. even when the big name everyone's talking about is sitting on the bench or out of the tournament entirely. One could argue that the league had been lulled into a sense of comfort by Clark's rise, thinking that her story would carry them through the season. But as with anything in sports, unpredictability is the only constant. Injuries, upsets, and bad luck are all part of the package. Relying too much on a single player is a dangerous game, one that the WNBA now has to reckon with. The dip in ratings after Clark's elimination wasn't just a blip, it was a wake-up call. This drop in ratings also serves as a reminder that while talent and excitement on the court are essential, they aren't everything. The WNBA needs to continue investing in its broader narrative, its teams, its players, and its culture. Caitlin Clark's appeal was undeniable, but she's one person in a league full of incredible athletes. The key is making sure fans care about all of them, not just the one with the flashy highlight reel. There are stories waiting to be told, moments waiting to be created. The league's job is to make sure those moments reach the audience, with or without the presence of a single star. In the immediate aftermath of Clark's exit, social media buzz plummeted, and water cooler conversations about the WNBA faded. This underscores just how much she had dominated the public consciousness. Without her, it's like everyone moved on to the next shiny thing. In a world with so many entertainment options, attention spans are short, and capturing consistent engagement is tougher than ever. The WNBA must grapple with this reality, especially as it tries to grow its fan base and expand its reach. Moving forward, the league has its work cut out. It's not just about avoiding a ratings crash after the next big player gets eliminated. It's about ensuring that no one player holds the fate of the league in their hands. Women's basketball has an incredible story to tell, and Caitlin Clark is certainly a chapter in that story. But she shouldn't be the whole book. The WNBA must foster an environment where fans are invested in the entire league, where they're tuning in for the love of the game, not just the love of one player. Perhaps it's also a lesson in balance. Yes, you need stars, every sports league does. But those stars should enhance what's already a compelling product, not become the product itself. Caitlin Clark's elimination may have caused the ratings to crash, but it also illuminated a path forward for the WNBA. The league now knows just how crucial it is to build a more robust foundation, one that can weather the inevitable ups and downs of individual player performances and storylines. In the end, the WNBA will rebound. It always does. But this experience will likely prompt some introspection. There's no question Caitlin Clark will continue to be a massive draw when she returns, but hopefully the league will be ready with more stories, more stars, and more reasons for fans to stick around. After all, the game of basketball is bigger than any one player, and the WNBA has too much to offer to let a single elimination derail its momentum. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more engaging content. We thrive on your feedback, so be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Until next time, keep discovering and stay tuned.